Hello and welcome. My name is John Hawkes and I am IHS Jane's Land Manager, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this online intelligence briefing today. Today, Chris Foss, editor of Jane's Armoured Fighting Vehicles, Jane's Artillery and Air Defence, Jane's Logistics Support and Unmanned, and Jane's System Upgrades, as well as a prolific contributor to Jane's News and Magazines, will present a session entitled The Latest Russian Armoured Fighting Vehicles.
Thank you, John. Well, this presentation will cover the latest Russian armoured fighting vehicles, but it does come with a government health warning and is subject to change. As events are taking place in Russia, the possible reduction of the defence budget, some of the vehicles which we have seen, when they come into service, may well have different subsystems or in fact appear quite different. This presentation will outline these Russian armoured fighting vehicle developments, plus some coverage of Russian tracked and wheeled armoured vehicles currently in production for home and export markets, as well as recent upgrades to these vehicles. The agenda is as follows. First of all, we'll talk about key Russian armoured fighting vehicle manufacturers. Then we'll move on to the new generation of Russian armoured fighting vehicles. A brief look at some of the upgraded armoured fighting vehicles, which are potentially for the export market, but could also enter service with the Russian Army. And finally, airborne armoured vehicles. We also say a few words briefly about exports of Russian tracked and wheeled armoured combat vehicles. We'll now have a look at the T-14 Armata. Although the word Armata does actually sometimes refer to the whole family of vehicles, not just the tank. In many respects, I think Armata is a revolutionary design, as apart from the S-tank developed many years ago in Sweden, for something like 70 or 80 years, all tanks have had a turret which is manned. 3-man in the West, 2-man in Russia, and of course Leclerc. So this is, to me, is a revolutionary design. All the crew are seated at the front of the hull, commander, gunner, driver, in a very well protected citadel. On top of that, you've got an advanced armour array, which includes passive and explosive reactive armour, and then you've got the turret, which at the moment has got a 125mm 2A82O smoothbore gun, and it does fire a new generation of ammunition, which has got a significant increase in armour penetration characteristics. So to me, it is a revolutionary design. Below that, you can see a part of the defensive aid, the hard kill gas thing, which in some respects is very similar to DROS. You also see the sensors mounted on the turret. The lower part, you can see a part of the armour package which protects the skirt. On the top, you have the panoramic sighting system and remote weapon station, and you can also see another part of the DAS. It's got a very advanced fire control system, which includes a hunter capability, in which the commander first finds the sight, hands over to the gunner, who engages the target. The sight has day and night capabilities and also has a laser rangefinder. There is, however, a big debate of manned or unmanned turrets, particularly on situational awareness, but certainly this enables the tank to be very well protected. We'll now have a look at the T-14 from the rear. As you can see, the front part of the hull, where the crew compartment is very well protected by side armour, and on the side at the back is bar armour, or slat armour as some people call it, which gives you some protection against rocket-propelled grenades. Not shown here is some mounting points on the back, which is probably for fuel tanks. Traditionally, Russian tanks always have fuel drums on the rear. They are used first before the main fuel cells are used, and that gives them an increased operating range. You can also see the turret bustle, and below the sensor on the roof you can see a part of the defensive aid system. On the right hand side you've got the remote weapon station. We understand that a total of 14 Armata prototype and pre-productions have been built, and they could well be followed by a first production batch of 100 vehicles. We'll now look at the T-15 heavy infantry fighting vehicle. The latest information I have on this is the combat weight is around 50 tons. It has a crew of 3, very well protected at the front, commander, gunner and driver, and carries 9 dismounts. They are seated in the rear of the vehicle on blast attenuating seats and would normally deploy from the vehicle using a power-operated ramp. Unlike the earlier BMP 1, 2 and 3, there is no provision for the infantry to fire their weapons from within the vehicle. It does have a defensive aid system, as you can see along the top of the hull, along similar lines to the Armata. It has very well protected armour, including explosive reactive armour. And again, one of the interesting points, it's got a remote controlled turret developed by the KBP Instrument Design Vehicle. That turret has the The same cannon is in BMP-2, which is the 2A42, a 7.62 coaxial machine gun, and 2 pods of Cornet D anti-tank guided weapons. The Cornet D is the home version, the export version is called Cornet E. Those have a range of between 8,000 and 10,000 meters depending on the version, and in addition to having a tandem high explosive anti-tank warhead, can also be fitted with a thermobaric warhead, which is highly effective in urban operations. It also has a hunter-killer capability, so it can engage targets very rapidly at long range. In the West, there's no similar vehicle to that. The nearest vehicle, probably in my view, would be the Israeli Namur, which is based on components of the Merkava Mark IV main battle tank, which is currently in service with the idea. The actual running system is made in America, then it goes to Israel. So that is the nearest comparable vehicle, and this particular vehicle is very well armed. The interesting thing is the turret is common. Russia is trying to have common subsystems throughout the fleet, both to reduce initial procurement costs and through life cycle costs. And that remote control turret is also fitted, we'll show you in a minute, on the Kurgan X-25 and on the Boomerang 25 APC. So it's a common turret which should have obviously logistics and training advantages. Suspension, as far as we know, is torsion bar, but it's supposed to give a very good ride, and it has an unditching beam at the front of the hull. So T-15, a lethal vehicle, no real comparison in the West, and will allow the infantry to operate in much closer proximity to tanks than in the past.